Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah, and this is Pearls of Wisdom and Food with the Carnivore Lifestyle. And don't we just love it? And on this channel, if you're new, welcome. Just keep tuning in and you'll get to know all of us. We have some characters that we use here and a lot of frequent commenters that you'll become familiar with. It's a great place for older people with the turtle-like metabolism that they warned us. They said it slows down like 10% every decade or something like that. Sometimes it feels like 10% every year, doesn't it? But the carnivore way of eating makes me feel so good. And so we just kind of share the good parts and the bad parts. And sometimes people give great suggestions on how to handle something, like the statin pushers. And as Mike from Carnomad says, most of us don't have a statin deficiency, even though the doctors want us to think this way. So what I have here is, it's just an interesting little, sometimes we have Sarah School, which is Sarah reading something and interpreting it in her own way. And then other times, it's very, very interesting. This is from Mark Sisson. And as many of you know, he does have a website, and it's marksdailyapple.com. Funny, the apple is in it. And I became enamored with Mark for a couple of reasons. One is that he's a wee bit younger than me, but he's in great shape. He's just affable. I think if you ran into him on the street, he might even have a conversation with you. I don't think that he's bigger than he thinks he is, which happens to a lot of people. And he started the Primal Food Company. And it's funny that I like him so much because I never liked condiments, so I never had to learn how to give them up or to do that mayo search or salad dressing search that a lot of people have to do. And so it is kind of funny because I'm glad I didn't eat mayonnaise. That's probably 100 less pounds that I had to lose, because if it was like cashew butter or peanut butter or butter, I'd be in trouble. So anyway, in his early 60s, he started the Primal Food Company, and he's got many different ventures, but he started that, and along comes Kraft, which is also known as crap, right? I mean, there's not too many of their food items that, you would see on a recommended list for people beginning any food plan that where they cared about what they put in their body. So many chemicalized things in their foods. So but Kraft came along and gave him a cool 200 million for his Primal company that he only owned for a few years, but he's a wise man, another reason I like him a lot. And he wanted to make sure that the Primal company, name stayed the same, that it was pure, that it was his way, that the things done the way that he wanted, that he worked so hard to get done, stayed the same. He didn't want them messing with his label, the integrity of his foods, his recipes, and so forth. And it's it was in the sales agreement. And so they've pretty much maintained that. And the quality of his foods, have not been tampered with, because a company like Kraft, all I can think of is how they're going to tamper with it and make 3 times as much per bottle or jar of something and give us crap ingredients. I'm sure canola oil isn't anywhere in any of Mark's foods. Is it ever going to be allowed, and so forth? So he holds a strict reign over what they do with his product, and I really, really like that. But the other day, this came in my feed, because I get, feeds from lots of different places. And it's just kind of cool. It's almost 2 years old, but I think in today's world where so many of us fast, don't fast, have coffee, don't have coffee with things in it, have black coffee, all the different things, I just thought that this was an interesting take. So strap yourselves in. The title of this is, Does Coffee Break an Intermittent Fast? And he says it's one of the most frequent questions he sees. And he says, you shouldn't really worry too much about this stuff. You're even willing and able to go without a meal or a snack for 12 or 24 hours. It places you in a rarefied company of people. That's 95, 95th percentile stuff. I love him. You're ahead of the game simply by being open to the idea of not eating every hour. Welcome to America, the land of food opportunity. Take heart in that. Some coffee with cream midway through doesn't take away from what you're accomplishing. Don't you love the guy? He must be so nice to be around and work for. You know, he's not king of the Mount Perfect Carnivore, is he? But I know you guys, and I know you love the minutia. Yes, I do. Virgo. I know because I love it too. It's fun, even if it gets us into trouble sometimes. So let's dig right in. First, does black coffee break a fast? Put another way, does coffee interfere with the benefits we're seeking from a fast? And that's so true because each one of us has certain purposes that we do our fasting. When I go from OMAD to OMAD, which means one meal a day, to 23 to 24 hours later, another meal on another day, what happens in those hours? What am I trying to accomplish? One, it's for my head a lot, the most, because if I have an empty belly that's just working on digesting that one meal that I have, my head is calm. It has time to think about other stuff and not cloud it up with clock watching. It's noon. It's almost time for my first meal of the day, things like that. And I do have coffee during my day, just as a disclosure. Does coffee help or hinder? Well, fasting is a quick and easy, or at least simple, way to get into ketosis. You have little choice in the matter since you're not eating anything and your body requires energy. You break down fat for energy. And because you've only got fat coming in, you'll quickly start generating ketone bodies. If coffee stops ketosis, it's probably breaking the fast, if that's what your goal is, okay? Fat burning. Fat burning is another important aspect of fasting. Since we've already shown that coffee increases ketosis, I think it's pretty obvious that coffee also increases fat mobilization and burning. Yeah. See, I can't even read somebody else's words to you. Insulin sensitivity. Over the long term, fasting is an effective way to improve insulin sensitivity and glucose tolerance. Most things that make you better at burning fat and expending rather than storing energy, like exercise, low-carb diets, weight loss in general, tend to improve insulin sensitivity over time. Remember, most of us are insulin resistant. If you see somebody with a gut, it's probably because they're insulin resistant. So that's one of the first telltale symptoms. But the rest of it is we want to become insulin sensitive. But sometimes counterintuitive piece to all of this is that the short-term fasting can reduce insulin sensitivity. Interesting. There is a physiological measure the body takes to preserve that little glucose remains for the brain. All other tissues become insulin resistant so that the parts of the brain that can't run on ketones and requires glucose gets enough of the latter to function. That's higher than my pay grade. So I don't even have anything to comment on with that. Do your research if that's an important part. I know that the brain needs the glucose, but in what amounts? Coffee has a similar effect. Acutely, it reduces insulin sensitivity and glucose tolerance. So don't eat pastries with your coffee or keto muffins. Over the long term, it improves insulin sensitivity and glucose tolerance. Many studies find the more coffee you drink, the lower your risk of type 2 diabetes. Sign me up for that. Autophagy. A lot of people fast for a great many hours for the autophagy benefit. It's also known as cellular cleanup. Pruning. Entropy dictates that all things are constantly speeding towards disorder. Things fall apart, in other words. That applies to our cells and the tissues they compromise too. But because we are biological beings rather than inert objects, we can respond to and resist the descent into disorder. Autophagy is one of the ways in which we keep ourselves healthy and maintained, pruned and trimmed of damaged bits. Fasting is one of the best ways to induce autophagy. It's one of fasting's major selling points. If coffee destroys autophagy, that'd be a big mark against coffee, and it's a sure sign you're breaking your fast. Good thing coffee doesn't appear, though, to hamper autophagy, at least in mice. Both caffeinated and decaffeinated coffee induce autophagy in the liver, muscle tissue, and the heart. So that's good news, right? I'd probably keep it black, though. AMPK. It's a big word, and it takes up half of the line, okay? It's an enzyme that inhibits fat storage and promotes fat burning. It activates antioxidant networks, triggers autophagy, and promotes mitochondrial biogenesis. Well, sure. Doesn't everybody know that? I was just having that conversation the other day at Stop and Shop. Not. Other things do too. Exercise, basic calorie restriction, and any situation where energy is being deprived or expended. But fasting is one of the most reliable paths. Luckily, coffee doesn't seem to inhibit AMPK. It's not a sorority. So black coffee doesn't seem to break the fast in any meaningful sense. What about all the things people like to add to coffee? This is where it gets very, very interesting, and it's all minutia. And so that's what we like, because each one of us is Goldilocks when it comes to our coffee, unless you're lucky and you just pour a cup of black coffee and move on and don't get involved in all the chemicals, not the chemicals, the chemistry of the perfect cup of coffee, right? Common additions to coffee. Coffee with butter, MCT oil, coconut oil. Technically, it breaks the fast. You're ingesting calories depending on how much fat you add. It could be a significant number of calories, and calories break the fast. But pure fat has little or no effect on insulin. So it breaks the fast, but it doesn't spike the insulin. Interesting. Or the blood glucose or any other measurements that indicate a broken fast. So if you just like not eating, but the fasting part isn't, like number one on like what you want from it, keep adding your stuff to it. You won't burn as much body fat. But you will still burn some fat. It will help you fast longer. Well, that was always my reasoning. Adding a little fat to your coffee can make fasting more tolerable. If you can only manage 12 hours on black coffee, but a couple of teaspoons of coconut oil help you go the 24, coconut oil might be a good addition, right? This isn't a deprivation program that we're on. We've already had that. All those food plans got us here, right? It shouldn't affect autophagy. Protein ingestion interrupts autophagy. Butter has a tiny amount of protein that shouldn't interfere. Cream, heavy cream in your coffee? An ounce of cream has almost a gram each of carbohydrate, lactose, and protein. Some cream in your coffee won't affect your fat burning very much, but it will probably inhibit some autophagy. So, cream. That said, remember that ketogenic diets increase autophagy too, and those definitely include food. That is all that matters of degree. That is all a matter of degree. It is not a binary on-off switch. Less autophagy isn't zero autophagy. Okay? So, are we having fun yet? Coffee with almond or other nut milk. As long as you're avoiding the sweetened versions or the ones that come fortified with extra protein, and you have to read those labels on that almond breeze, I'm telling you. And you're not having almond breeze anyway because it's filled with oxalates, right? So there's a whole other there's a whole other topic that we're not talking about. And as long as you're not adding a half a cup at a time, a little nut milk won't make a big difference. There is very little of anything in most nut milks, okay? So if you're having like a tablespoon or two, but Don't make it almond. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because I see this a lot with my clients and people that comment on my page. Coffee with cinnamon, cacao, nutmeg. Cinnamon is fine. It tends to reduce insulin resistance, but it's loaded with oxalates, just so you just throwing that in. Okay? Cocoa powder is okay, but watch the amount. It's a whole legume powder. So it has carbs, protein, and fat. Anything more than a teaspoon will overdo it. If you add cocoa, use defatted cocoa powder. Adding too much of the cocoa powder with fat included will reduce the effects of fasting. Nutmeg is fine too. Just avoid large doses. And I heard the same about turmeric too, that it's loaded with oxalates, and to not have a lot of that, because a lot of people put things like that into their beverages. Coffee with stevia. Ooh, it's getting interesting, isn't it? When you eat it with a snack containing 290 calories, stevia lowers glucose and insulin levels. I see no mechanism by which stevia could make the situation worse without a meal. Okay, so he approves of stevia if you still have it. Monk fruit extract. Now I know that that's in keto, the sweetened versions of keto, the vanilla and the hazelnut. It has an effect similar to stevia, but it's fine. So there. So don't be dumping them. Coffee with artificial sweeteners. Those are those pink, yellow, and blue packets. And I throw in the green Truvia because that is uberly processed, and who knows with what. There's no good evidence they'll impair the metabolic response to fasting, but there are other unwanted effects you should want to avoid. And we know that. We all know that the artificial sweeteners in the little packets are like smoking. We all know they aren't good for us, but sometimes it's a crutch to get us to the place where we can kick it to the curb as a bad habit, right? No judgment, just what he's saying. As much as I love, there's the next one. This is interesting. Collagen. As much as I love and sell collagen, it is pure protein, and protein tends to activate mTOR and inhibit autophagy. This means that collagen in your coffee during a fast is probably fine for fat burning and may suppress your appetite, helping you to fast for longer, but it will reduce the effects of autophagy. Interesting, isn't it? When you're so that's another ball of wax, the collagen. A lot of people swear by it for their skin, hair, and nails, but if you're having it in your black coffee and you think that you're getting the benefits of fasting, it's just, this is the minutia, and he warned us, and he's right. So it's like, what is your purpose? What is your, what is your end game? Do you want to have the black coffee with the collagen so it makes you feel good in your nails and your hair and your skin? Or is it the autophagy because you feel that this is the best way to get rid of those nasty little cells that just aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing? I don't know. It's up to you. I'm just giving you info. When you're at a coffee shop, order black coffee. Drip, pour overs, espressos, Americanos. That's the most surefire way to maintain the fast. How simple is that? Ask for heavy cream. Don't use the cream. And we all know about that, right? The thing that says cream is usually half and half. They tend to set out customers half and half milk, half cream. That gives a significant protein and carb load that will inhibit the effects of the fast. Instead, if you absolutely need something to add to your coffee, ask the staff for heavy cream. Okay? But make sure it's heavy. But then we don't trust. I mean, have you ever said to a 17-year-old girl, or asked her for an explanation of something, or asked for heavy cream, or is this real butter, or any of those questions? I don't know. And then they go into the kitchen and they ask, and the chef, who uses nothing but 40-60 butter margarine percentages, he doesn't care. And it's cooked in canola oil anyway. Eat at home. Take that restaurant budget that you have and buy the good stuff and have it at home and know what you're eating. Those seed oils, canola, vegetable, all of that. like just like your salad dressing, speaking of Mark Sisson. So avoid nut milks. Coffee places often use sweetened nut milks, and they use entirely too much of it. An almond milk latte will have around 8 ounces of almond milk, far too much for your fast, even if it's unsweetened. And don't we know about the oxalates by now? That's about it for coffee and fasting. So as a former Instacart shopper for places, I would get a Bed Bath & Beyond request for cartons and cartons of milk and half and half and almond milk. And so, and they didn't care if it was sweetened or unsweetened almond milk. So if you're going in there and they're, offering to make you something, or they've got that coffee bar, they must, because I'm delivering all that dairy, non-dairy liquid stuff for coffees, they don't really care. If the little label that they put on that little pitcher says almond milk, you don't know what type of almond milk it is. You don't know if it's the store brand, which could have dubious ingredients. Why? Because store brands do that. Or if it's the almond breeze, or if it's sweetened, or if it's unsweetened. And let me tell you, if it tastes better because it's a Bed Bath & Beyond, it's probably sweetened, right? And you're used to not having it. And so suddenly, ooh, this tastes good. Yes, let me get that coffee maker for $300 because it will always make this coffee taste this good, right? So be aware, we're being duped. If you step out of the house and order anything except a water in a bottle like that, a mineral water, you could be being duped. When something says natural flavors or something like that on it, or it's got the dubious ingredients and it's giving it to you and still buy it anyway, just buyer beware. You want to take care of yourself. Sometimes we do it in small measures, like not chewing gum anymore, and which isn't a small measure, but it seems like small, if you're having a pack a day just to keep the triggers and cravings away. Read the label, see the carbs that it has, make your choices, just like with the coffee issues, it's buyer beware. It's what your intent is. It's what you want for your body. We all have different forks in the road where we're asked to make a change, a decision, or we're out and we're like 100 miles from home, so we can't make our coffee our way. So we're under the mercy of some place that just doesn't care. Their beans could have mold in them. Their cream could be half and half and filled with garbage and junk and chemicals, like why can't I think of it? It's the thing that some dairy creams still have in it. I know it begins with a C. Dupuy, help, brain cramp. Anyway, look how long this darn video is. Thank you so much for watching. This has just been a little coffee chat, literally. Thanks for watching. I'll see you the next time. This has been Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food with Carnivore. Bye-bye for now.